Blanchard impaled a fat crawler on a hook, tossed it and the cork bobber into the pool, then sat down on the grassy bank and popped the cork on the bottle that accumulated several months' worth of dust and grease from his cook range. He drank and fished for a time, catching 2 small catfish and a bullhead, which he returned to the pool so he could recatch them later when he was more in the mood for cleaning and eating them. He realized after his first sip of the firewater that he was out here to drink, not fish. The fishing was something to do while he drank and tried to forget about 12 years ago, and about the boy who may or may not be his. Clouds rolled in and a gentle rain came down through the cottonwoods and box elders lining the stream and the cool, dark pool on which Blanchard's cork bobber floated, nudged this way and that by the raindrops falling like silver nickels. He removed his hat, set it down beside him, and tipped his face to the rain. He opened his mouth and stuck out his tongue. The cool drops felt good on his face. They tasted as sweet as cherries. There had been no rain for a while, and it was nice to see and feel the rain again. He liked the distracting properties of the wetness so much that he drew his hook and bobber in, lay the cane pole on the bank beside the bottle, and kicked out of his boots. He removed his sweaty, dirty socks, and then his vest, shirt, pants, and summer-weight longhand. He again tipped his face to the gauzy sky from which the rain came, soft and gentle and spiced with the rich verdant aromas of deep summer. He smiled as he stepped to the edge of the pool, took another step, and dropped over the lip of the bank and into the water. He plunged straight down, the cold waters closing around him, washing over him. His feet touched the sandy bottom. He sprang off of it with his toes and swam the 3 or 4 feet back to the surface, lifting his head above the now churning water and whipped his hair back away from his eyes. Woo! He kicked around the pool for several minutes. The water made his right-hand knuckles burn, but it was a good, cleansing kind of burn. Occasionally, he glanced around, making sure no one was in the area. He couldn't be seen out here, swimming naked as a jaybird, splashing and kicking and whooping like a damned lunatic. Of course, he was alone. None of the men from the ranch ever came out here. Even on their days off, none fished. They were young men, and they did what young men did with free time on their hands. They went to town to slap their greenbacks down on Madame Delacroix's cherrywood table and to head upstairs for a few minutes of carnal bliss. Blanchard and Gyllenwater used to fish together here on the creek, but the old man was too ill to walk or even ride out here anymore. That was all right. Blanchard had come to enjoy his time alone here. The older he got, the more he preferred his own company. He didn't, however, want to die alone. That thought often nagged him, though he would not tolerate such a worry now. He was alone and happy and unencumbered here in the pool, and he was half drunk and having a good damn time acting like a carefree kid again, like he'd once felt back in his family's farm in eastern Texas, back when he'd still had a future. But what he'd done with it often made him sad to think about, and it left him here now at the rimfire where he'd been for the past 15 years, feeling the years tumbling in around him like dirt piled beside a grave. He crawled up out of the pool, took a big drink of the whiskey, then gathered his clothes and fishing pole and night crawlers and grub sack, which he had not plundered, having opted for the drink instead. He'd looped his gun belt back around his neck and slogged, soaking wet, the rain hammering down more intensely now, back toward the cabin. He just brought the dark, wet hovel into sight before him, sheathed in the big trees and fronted by the creek when the aroma of pine smoke peppered his nostrils. He looked at his chimney pipe and was surprised to see smoke being ripped away from it by the cool, wet, rain-laced breeze. He'd been at the creek for a couple of hours, so there was no way the smoke was from the small fire he'd lain in the range for coffee. Someone was here.